1, 2, ready, go. What's going on, everybody? Perry to my right, Eric back there. We all went to go see 1917, which is written and directed by Sam Mendes and shot by the legendary Roger Deakins. So, just from the trailer from this, I can see a lot of people just going into this thinking, like, this is just like another war movie. I can see, and honestly, like, if you don't really know a lot about, like, who's behind this film in terms of who's shooting it, and if you don't know the gimmick of it, even though I don't think it's like I don't say that as a bad thing, but, like, if you don't know what's, like, really bringing people, what's really intriguing audiences to come see this, which is the fact that it's all done in one shot, or it's supposed to appear like it's all done in one shot. If you don't really know that stuff, I feel like this can just come off as, like, not a movie that you would really want to go see. Unfortunately, I think that this is probably going to flop in the box office just because of the fact that I don't think it's bringing a lot of people to come see it for that reason. Because this is the first day of its, like, wide release, and really there wasn't that many people in the theater for this. Like, I thought it would be a little bit more packed than what it was.
Yeah, and the budget was $90 million, so it's like a $90 million war film. That's gonna be hard to recoup that budget.
I mean, if it gets lucky, it might break even, just like with the theatrical release and maybe Blu-ray sales and stuff. But this is a movie that's gonna, if it's lucky, it might make its money back. But I think, and its wide release and everything, and for its run in the theaters, it might flop.
The Oscars, though, will give it some.
The Oscars gonna give it some love. So
yeah,
so maybe that'll help it drive home with some sales. But so yeah, that being said, I was highly looking forward to this. I wasn't super excited. Like, there was a lot of other films that I knew were coming out this year that I was much more excited for. But nevertheless, this was a film that I was still, pretty excited to see, more or less. And I gotta say, guys, like, I think that this is a fantastic piece of filmmaking. Like, I really, really enjoyed this film a lot. I think it's safe to say that I probably enjoyed this film more than anybody else in here, but that being said, I just think there's so much about this film to really, really enjoy. Obviously, let's just go ahead and talk about the camera work in this. The camera work plus the direction in this, I just think is, like, on a whole other level. I think it's absolutely outstanding, just how everything was timed, how everything was choreographed, just this huge scale of what the director Sam Mendes had to deal with in order to capture the way that he wanted to capture it. I think is just absolutely staggering, and I think it was just, he achieved it very, very well. And it's not an easy thing to do these big, long one-shot takes. And I just think it really, really worked for the film because, like, what I love so much about the one-shot technique is that I felt like it was incredibly fitting for what the film was going for, and it didn't feel like it was just there for the sake of trying to be, like, snazzy or showy. Like, it really felt like it had its use in the film and it had its purpose. Because the whole time when you're watching this film, first of all, it's basically it takes place like in a big, like, 1 to 2 day stretch. And the one-shot sequences help you feel the time that's in this movie. It feels all like it's just taking place in real time. And then on top of that, the one-shot technique really makes it feel like anything can pop off at any fucking moment. And I love how, like, this one-shot sequences really drives that home. Because, most war films, that's kind of what they want to get across anyway, is that, 1 second you're doing one thing and the next second all hell broke loose. But the utilization of the one-shot sequences drives that point home further than I think I've seen almost any war film drive home with, because it's just the way that it was done that really makes you feel like any fucking second shit's gonna go off, and you never feel comfortable when you're watching this movie because you know that even though shit's fine now, like, you never know that at any point all that can just go away, and then all of a sudden you're fighting for your life. And I just think the aesthetic approach to this was super, super effective, and really just really, really impressive. I really hope that this gets nominated. It's gonna get nominated. I mean, if they don't nominate this for at least camera work and film direction, we'll see. I mean, Sam Mendes won a Golden Globe, so at this point I think that he will get nominated for Best Director. I think this is also getting nominated for Best Picture. But I really hope it gets nominated in those categories, honestly, because I think that it was really, really well done and deserves to get, recognized in those areas. But beyond the technicals, I mean, I was also, I thought the acting was pretty well done. I'm not saying, like, I don't think everybody gave, like, a stellar performance or anything, but I thought all the performances were more than well done enough to actually get across, the actual the impact of what was going for, because there's a lot of really emotional scenes in this film. One in particular that was like really hard to watch because they just captured it incredibly well, and a lot of that is thanks to the acting. But yeah, and the writing and the story. One thing that I'll say about it is that sure, this isn't a film that, like, if you're expecting a war film to, like, subvert everything and turn everything on its head and just give you something that's, like, completely different in terms of the story, like, it's not going to do that. Like, this has its, its war film cliches or whatever. But I think, it's really how it's done and really how they were able to achieve the emotion in this movie that I think really worked in its favor. And, yeah, and there's also, like, maybe there's one moment in particular involving an airplane crash that, like, I think, like, it looked cool on screen, but it kind of felt like a movie moment, and it didn't, like, it was one of those moments that, like, it didn't feel all the way natural, even though I know that it was really well directed and it looked really cool. But, like, this film, like, I really, really enjoyed it, guys. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And if it gets nominated for awards, like, I'm not going to be really mad, because yeah, it's like, again, like, as far as, like, this being a war film, sure, it's not, like, the most subversive war film you've ever seen, but it's really in the direction and how this whole thing was done that really pushes it to a whole other level. And this is a film that I really, really enjoyed, guys. It's really intense, really engaging, incredibly visceral, and I really enjoyed watching this film. And yeah, as far as, like, favorite war films goes, this is going to be up there. So yeah, I'm done gushing over it now, guys. Anybody want to say anything?
I think it's safe to say that I was the most excited for this film, but coming out of it, I'm kind of in between Carlos and Eric. I don't like it nearly as much as Carlos, but I wouldn't say I think it's safe to say I like it more than Eric. I think this is a good movie, not a great movie. This is not, oh, this is one of the best films of the year, this is one of the best of the decade.
Highly disagree, but go ahead.
Anything like that. Oh, man. But I do think it is very ambitious. There was quite a few moments that felt too Hollywood, other than the plane crash, that kind of took me out of the movie. There was definitely some, like, logical loop, like, holes in the film. There was definitely times where I was questioning the logic of the movie and what just happened, and those type of moments kind of took me out of it. But like Carlos said, it's very well shot. The cinematography is great. Although personally, this isn't my number one pick of the year in terms of cinematography. That would have to go to Waves, which I still think has the best cinematography I've seen all year. Yeah, this film doesn't reinvent the wheel, like you said. It definitely has those war film cliches. One thing we were debating about on the way to the car was the score. Personally, I did not care very much for the score by Thomas Newman. There was a couple of pieces of score I thought worked very well in the, in certain scenes, but there was a lot of, like, pieces of score that felt very cliche, like very stock, just generic war film music.
Yeah, I'm the only one in this car that really enjoyed the score for the most part. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the most creative, the most original score you've ever heard, the most artistic score you've ever heard, but I thought it was pretty effective for what it was going for, because I didn't feel like the film was telling me how to feel all the time. Like, yeah, there's moments where there's melancholy music, there's somewhat, sad kind of music, but it didn't feel overbearing to where, like, I'm listening to, like, or like I'm watching, like, a Zemeckis film or something, to where the score is just so over like the top and trying to yank tears out of you and trying to make you feel something.
I wouldn't say it's nearly as that bad, but it was a bit distracting for me personally. But it's nowhere near like a Zemeckis film. Like, it's not as god awful as the Forrest Gump score or anything like that. With that being said, I'm gonna give it over to Eric.
Okay, so anybody who knows me knows that I'm just not personally a fan of war films, and I'm gonna try my best to keep my personal subjective enjoyment out of it. So, on a technical level, this movie does so much that's fantastic. Like, the best thing I'll say about it for sure is the production. I wouldn't be mad if this won production design at the Oscars.
Yes.
If that flat out won, I would be like, it deserves it, honestly. This movie's amazing at everything, at the coordination. There's just like things that'll be in the background that just adds to the environment that seems so believable and are like nice little touches for you to feel immersed into the environment. And obviously the cinematography is beautiful because it's Roger Deakins. He knows his shit. It's gorgeous the whole way through. That's probably what kept me the most engaged throughout the whole film. I pretty much agree with Perry. I don't think the score is bad necessarily. I just thought it was kind of forgettable. But I also agree with Carlos that like it doesn't draw attention to itself. It's atmospheric, and it's more of a mood setter instead of like trying to tell you how to feel. But really, my issues with this film are just it really didn't give me anything new other than being a technical marvel. I didn't care for the writing, the characters, the resolution, the journey. Like the journey to get there is like, it's well presented. Like, there's no denying that. But it just didn't make me feel much other than like tension in some sequences that are pretty great. I had another like one that I wanted to say compliment about this movie. Fuck. Shit, it'll come back to me, I swear.
Okay. Probably like the direction or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I really enjoyed this film more than everybody else in here. But yeah, I just like, I don't know, like when it comes to like, because like me and Perry, well, not just me and Perry, I guess we were all kind of like, we were talking about how you know, Perry was saying that there's some logical things in this movie that, you know, he didn't like, because like there'll be times where like there's a bomb going off like right near somebody's face, but like they're still able to like get up and walk or whatever. And you know, I can understand where he's coming from with that. Like, I'm not super hateful against that argument or anything, but like, I don't know, like for me, like when it comes to war films, like I tend to give a lot of that stuff a pass, because I just feel like a lot of what, you know, in terms of the thematic qualities of war, is that a lot of stuff is just based on pure chance, and sometimes some things that you would think are just completely not logical, you know, don't happen to be that way, and you somehow are able to still be on your feet and do things. Now, I mean, there are limits, you know, if somebody gets like shot in the face and they're like somehow like shake it off and they're walking around, then like obviously that's like, I'm not gonna give that a pass. But like, I don't know, when it comes to like maybe the range of like a bomb, you know, I don't know what kind of bomb it is. I don't know how much force there was in the bomb. I don't know enough about this stuff to like make a bold claim that, oh, that would never happen like that, because I don't fucking know. Like, I really don't know. And so yeah, like I can see where they're coming from with that, but like for me, it didn't bother me. I felt a lot of the tension. I felt a lot of the things that happened in this film were really believable. There's only like, again, like maybe one or two moments that I felt were like movie moments, but for the most part, I really bought pretty much everything that happened in this film. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it, guys. I mean, I went in expecting a pretty awesome movie, and I kind of got an awesome movie and a little bit more. I felt a lot of the emotion in this film, and I personally did care about the characters in this. And
cared about Schofield. I really didn't care about Blake. I mean, they're neither.
I cared about Blake.
Neither of them are
Oh,
really.
yeah.
Neither of them are really that memorable. But
I mean, he's heroic, man. I mean, he was brave. Like what he did. Like I don't know. I don't get
that
it
doesn't
away,
make
but-
him a memorable character, though.
Yeah, but it makes him likable, and it makes you kind of appreciate and respect who he is and what he's done.
Yeah, but I feel like there are a million Blakes in a million different movies, in another million movies.
I think it did enough for me to care. I'm not saying he's the most mesmerizing fucking character, but I think the film did just enough for me to be like, okay, I care about this guy to a certain extent. Enough for me to feel something whenever shit goes down.
The main guy, I mean, I won't give any spoilers, but the guy we spend the most time with, his acting is not bad at all. He gets down and dirty. Like I'm sure he went through a lot of shit while acting, and
Well, that's the thing, is the acting in the movie overall is fine, but it's
that's how I
nothing
feel.
like,
Yeah.
oh wow, that was some great acting.
There's no
Yeah.
like true. Well, I'm not gonna say like there's none at all, but there's not enough like great character emotional conveyances.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like there's a few moments where I feel like the acting is actually really good. Like I feel like there's a few moments where like, okay, damn, he's convincing me right now that he is feeling what he's feeling right now. Like there was like a few moments that I felt that, but then I'll give it to you. There are a few other moments that I feel like weren't as strong, but I feel like the parts where they really needed to, deliver, they did. Like the important parts, but or the more important parts, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say the last complaint, which is pretty subjective, I'm willing to admit, but the contrast between these guys is, this movie felt like a movie. Like it was. It's weird to say, but I mean, like they did a good job at like the environment and the sound design, but like every event that happened almost they felt like movie moments. They didn't really feel like. I mean, shit happens in war. Like, there's obviously like crazy shit that we can't even like imagine going to war. Like, but I don't know. They felt like things that were put down in the script to happen, if that makes sense.
I can agree with that to some extent. I don't wholly agree with it, but I can agree with that to some extent.
Yeah, there's only for me, there's only like one, maybe two moments that I felt like this is a movie moment. For the most part, I didn't feel that way. A lot of this felt incredibly realistic. It didn't feel like just some like manufactured movie moment. There's only, again, maybe one or two moments, I'll grant you, like this feels a little bit artificial.
There
But-
was some pretty great visual callbacks. There was some great visual callbacks that really surprised me, because I didn't think, that they were going to call back to earlier scenes.
Oh yeah,
But when
I know
they
what you're
did
talking
with
about.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say it because I don't want to spoil the callbacks for anyone that sees this film, but I was like, okay, that's really great storytelling. I just wish we could have got a little bit more of that, because it's like, I understand that there was their time, they're in war, their lives are at stake, and obviously when your lives are at stake, you're not going to make the most logical decisions.
Yeah.
But then there was times where I was like, man, this just feels like a movie moment. Like, this feels like this just has to happen in order to get the plot, get the story where it needs to go. But that's just how I feel personally.
One last praise I'll give about the movie is it actually felt kind of reserved. It didn't because it's really about one thing. I don't know if it's told in the trailer, so I guess I'll spare it. But it's just about this one dude. Well, it's about these dudes doing this one thing, and it's not filled to the brim with needless action that completely just goes on for too long.
Yeah.
Every event that happens, it's done so well.
Yeah, and I think that those were the parts that felt really realistic, because in war it wasn't just constant carnage and battling. Sure, there was a lot of that, but there was a lot of one soldier's oh, I hope I get out of this, and the other soldier's I hope we do too. I'm starving. I want to go home.
Yeah.
And also, this film isn't this film isn't in your face about the gore either.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of violence in this film, and there's some disturbing shit that goes on in the movie, but it's not it's not in your face about it. It's actually pretty subtle about a lot of the gore that happens in this film.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I feel the same way.
Because like comparing this to like Saving Private Ryan, it's like Saving Private Ryan's like in your face about the gore. Like it's like so in your face. I mean, and you could praise it for that too because it's trying to portray like the most disturbing, realistic depiction of what happens. But you know, it's cool to see a film like depict the actual disturbing nature of war without having to go to lengths of like, oh, look at this crazy disturbing gore in your face.
Well, with all the gore, it gets tiresome after a while. And you know, when watching something like Saving Private Ryan, where it's just so gory, it's just like, man, I'm getting bored of this. But with this, I feel like there was more of like with 1917, I feel like there was more of a contrast, which is something I like. Like, don't get me wrong, I seem to be more negative than I am. It's just, I think this is a good movie, just not a great movie, and I don't really see myself rewatching this movie, but I enjoyed it overall.
This is a movie that, like, if it's on, like, HBO or some shit like that, like, I'm gonna watch it. Like, unless there's a better film on. But, like, this is a film that, like, I wouldn't watch, like, you know, like, oh, like, what movie do I want to watch today? Oh, let me pop in 1917. Like, I won't do that, probably. But if it's on, like, TV or if it's playing, like, on HBO or some shit, like, I'm gonna watch it because I just think it's really, really well done and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, guys, I mean, I really, obviously, really enjoyed this film. I think it's a pretty fantastic piece of filmmaking, especially for a war film. To me, this is one of the better war films ever made. But, you know, I haven't seen a lot of war films. I mean, I've seen my fair share. But I just think, like, the technicals and, you know, the acting for when it needed to be done, I felt like was really effective enough for me to really enjoy what I was seeing and to be impressed by it. Yeah, again, like, I can't praise, like, the direction and the camera work enough. I felt like that's what really made this film something that was unique and special. And I really love the way this was filmed, and I think it really packs a punch. So, yeah, to give my grade, guys, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa.
All right.
I go last. No, I go last.
Okay. So the only war film that I'll like rewatch really is just Apocalypse Now. I know that's like the golden standard.
Yeah.
But it's like a psychological breakdown of like the horrors of war. It's insane. It's like almost a horror movie in a way. But like even Full Metal Jacket, like the second half, I'm just like, yeah, it's really good, but I don't know. I don't really want to rewatch it. It's a fantastic film, that movie though. But 1917, it just didn't it didn't subvert me in any way, which was kind of disappointing because I heard so much about this film. I'm like, well, maybe they'll do like something really great with the writing outside of the technicals and stuff like that. But I don't feel like it did. Like it really didn't even try there, honestly. They just like, yep, that's a very heroic mission that guy did.
Well, this is based on a story from the director's grandfather, so take it up with his grandfather about there not being enough meat in this.
Well, I don't know, take it with a grain of salt because you gotta imagine there were some liberties taken with the story to make it, you know, more cinematic.
True.
Yeah, it's a movie.
True.
There's no real way to win at this.
I guess it's just because, like, I feel like, you know, it wasn't obviously, I don't know, I just feel like that wasn't a goal. A goal of this movie was not to like subvert the war genre on its head. So it's for me to like be like, oh, it didn't do that. It's like, and that's not really what he was trying to do. But I can see the frustration why you would, because, you know, so much praise about a war film, you want to see maybe do something different. So
if you think about it, every war film based in reality, I mean, every war, I guess, I mean, it's personal politics aside, like, people do very heroic things, and for war, like, they're very brave people, and that's all like based off some things, people who actually fought in war. So I don't know, it's like you could say either way, I feel, because every war is based off real people who done real things in reality. So, but anyways, I give this movie a 7. It's a 7 for me.
okay, well, at least you gave it a 7.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by that.
Oh wow, that's so funny because I enjoyed it more than you did, but I still have to be objective.
Oh wow.
And I'm glad you mentioned Apocalypse Now because you know that's my third favorite film of all time.
Incredible movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Movie sucks. I'm just kidding.
But I'm actually gonna give 1917 a 7 out of 10 too.
Oh, a 7 out of 10.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm glad y'all gave it a 7. If one of
Did
y'all
you
gave
think
it
we were gonna give it a 6?
Yeah, I thought
No.
one of y'all was gonna give it a 6.
No.
I was about to fucking have a fight in this car.
Little Women is a 6. This is a 7.
I knew if I gave it a 6, that's just my fucking own personal subjective taste. So no, it's better than that.
Yeah.
It's got a lot to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
I just really loved how I was super engaged in this. Like, I know I'm probably alone on that, but like, I was engaged from start to
Oh
finish.
no, the third act really had me hooked. Like I was really hooked. There was certain moments in certain acts where I was just really hooked. You know, it's just like the immersion like differed depending on where we were at in the film.
Yeah, I can agree with
for
that.
me, it wasn't like that. It was like movie started, boom, not until the end. I was just like fucking sucked into this shit.
No, yes, there were some scenes where like the tension was pretty great.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there was.
I can't deny that. Like,
yeah.
there was times where I was like, oh shit's going down, and not in like oh fucking things are happening on the screen. No, it was actually like deserved. Like it felt believable.
Definitely. I mean, I would still recommend this movie. I think it's worth checking out. I actually wanted to see this in IMAX, and even though I'm not like blown away by this film, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get to see it in IMAX because that would have been a pretty cool experience.
Luckily, the theater was actually kind of loud, so
It was
Yeah.
loud, yeah.
I was worried because like the trailers were quiet, and I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be probably quiet, but it was actually really loud.
Oh yeah, especially drowning out all the old people that sat near us.
Yeah, the fucking boomers didn't know how to be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
they
fucking
can't.
lady in front of me was like, oh, it's that thing. It's that thing.
Her phone went off during the fucking movie, and the people that were sitting in front of us, guys and girls, and I don't know any gender you identify as, they were literally sitting in our seats when we walked in the theater because we have reserved seating. I bought these tickets like a week and a half in advance.
He had to tell 2 old boomers to get up out of
Yeah.
the seat, and one of them had like a mini like service dog or something, and it was like the most pitiful thing I've ever seen. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but it's like you had to do it because if you choose another seat to sit in,
Right.
we're gonna be sitting in nobody else's
Yeah,
seat.
I don't,
Exactly.
I don't
gonna-
give a fuck if they're in my seat, but I don't want some asshole like 30 minutes into the movie is like, hey, you're in my seat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally the only reason. I would have just been like, okay, whatever, let's just sit. Because we were going to sit the row behind them, and we're like, but someone else is going to come up saying we're sitting in their seat. And, then
And
we're
more
gonna another
boomers
bullshit.
sat in those seats
Yeah,
that y'all were sitting in.
Yeah, they did. A whole row of boomers just sat right behind us. And I
Yeah,
was like, shit.
and we're putting their knees in my fucking back
Yeah.
like the entire movie.
Yeah.
Oh, when they got out, they practically pulled me back in my seat.
They were quiet for the most part, but there were certain moments where they were like they just couldn't help themselves. There
I
was
know.
moments
Yeah.
where they just had to say shit. They had to like laugh and say certain things. But I'm like, man, I'm like, a lot of people are watching this. They've probably been in fucking war, so it's like, well, what if I was like telling them to shut up during a movie? Like, how would I feel? Like, these motherfuckers probably have put their life on the line. I'm like, shut up.
I'm not an ageist or anything. I have
No,
nothing
when we say boomer, we don't automatically mean that with negative connotation.
Right.
What you guys are talking about, I'm ageist.
It's like
I hate old people.
No, I'm kidding. I don't.
I'm not an ageist, but it's like I don't care how old you are or how young you are. I believe when you watch a film, you have to maintain a certain movie-going etiquette.
decorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, apparently it's pretty sickening how common it is that people don't know how to behave in the theater. And it doesn't even matter what fucking age you are, what race you are, what
Yep.
fucking gender you are. I have been to enough bad movie experiences to know that almost doesn't even matter anymore. Like, it doesn't matter what you are, where you come from.
Yeah.
You're like, people just don't know how to be quiet. They don't know how to be quiet. They don't know how to behave properly when they're in the theater. It's insanely depressing.
Yeah.
To see how common it is. Maybe it's just where we live. I don't know. It's because we
No.
live in
No.
bumfuck
Happens
Georgia.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Happens literally everywhere.
It's like I feel like cinema is an art form, and I think I don't think it's too much to ask that we give the filmmaker and everyone involved everyone involved in the making of the film, give them our respect and actually pay attention to the movie while being respectful to everyone that's actually in the theater with them. I don't
I
feel
agree.
like that's too
It's
much
not.
to ask.
It's not. I mean, it's it's totally reasonable, and that's you shouldn't even have to even explain that to anybody. Like,
Yeah.
that should just be obvious. Like, it's almost as obvious as like when you go into a library, be quiet. Like,
Right.
it's equally as obvious.
Yeah.
But yet, like, when we tell people to please be quiet in the most polite way, we get looked at as some sort of like, you know, cynical assholes that have a stick up our ass when we're literally asking for the most basic thing.
Yeah. It's at least it wasn't as bad as the Midsummer screening.
No, that was pretty fucking bad.
That was horrible. Like what we experienced tonight was nothing
It was
compared
nothing, yeah.
compared to that Midsummer screening, or In Fabric for that matter. That was fucking
That was bad
terrible.
too. I was so lucky we sat on the right side, the furthest right side of that theater. Because if we were right in the shit where everybody was, that would have been a horrible experience.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, sorry for the rambling, guys. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking of bringing that up about the fucking old people like sitting in our damn seat and being kind of cunty about it.
Yeah. No country for old men, bitch. I'm just kidding.
All right, guys. That's all we got to say about 1917. I highly recommend going to the theaters and watching this. Support the film because it's most likely going to flop, unfortunately.
Oh.
So please watch it. If you really enjoyed what we had to say about 1917, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.